Ash vs. Evil Dead Episode 2 Bait. Now, the first thing I noticed about this episode when I turned it on is that the series is actually half an hour. That really surprised me when I saw that this week, because I initially thought that the show was going to be an hour long. The first episode, they did do like an hour long special thing. Um, but it really surprised me. And even that was only 45 minutes because, normally it's like, oh, here's like a full hour and stuff. It, in the actual time slot when it was set to record for me, it only recorded like 45 minutes. So it was, it's only a half an hour thing. And that really sucks to see because I thought for sure we were going to get, like, I believe the series is going to end up being 10 episodes for this first season. I thought for sure we were getting like 10 hours worth of content. We were going to get, 10 full, hour-long episodes, which I also thought because, it's also premiering, on like a premium cable network, I thought for sure it would kind of have to be an hour long because I didn't know the channels like that even did half-hour shows. So that surprised me in itself. But, it kind of sucked that it was half an hour, but it was an awesome half hour for the second episode for sure. This was probably the most featured episode in the initial trailer that came out. It was definitely the first and second episode were the ones that had the most footage shown, and this one was awesome. Like, it was such a fun episode. It was somehow even gorier than the last one, which I guess was automatic because I knew the car scene was going to be in this episode. So I guess that was that in itself is gorier than like everything that happened in the last one. But there were a couple of other really gory scenes too. But it was definitely some awesome stuff, like the scene where Ash is actually stabbing his deadite boss in the car. I knew that scene was coming from the trailer, and like all the blood's just squirting all over the place. Pablo's trying to drive the car, and he's leaning over, and blood's just shooting on him. And that whole scene was really fun. Like, it was like a quick clip in the trailer, and it was just like, oh, you have to stab him like 50 times, and then they just show him stabbing the deadite. But the actual scene within the episode was really, really cool. Like, it was a great little action scene, and they're just stuck in this car. Ash gets, he's pulled back. Pablo has to, figure out how the heck to drive the car. Ash's brakes and gas, back and forth. And the deadite, with them being so strong, the deadite's going back and forth. It's like holding Ash down. Pablo was, once again, I think Pablo gets really beat up in this show. He got messed up last time. He got a knife in his arm and stuff. And this time he was just like getting slammed on the dashboard. He was like slammed against the window and stuff. So I feel like he kind of gets the brunt of the force outside of Ash maybe. And even Ash seems to come out okay in this. And Pablo's kind of taking his place as far as getting beat up. Because now, it's not just Ash by himself like in the movies. It's, he's got his little trio. And Pablo seems to be the one to take all the pain at this point. Or at least most of it. But the whole car scene was really cool. And they're going back and forth. I love the fact that he took the trailer, so it just, for some reason, it made it really funny when they're like, swerving back and forth, and it's just this giant trailer swaying behind the car, so that was just kind of funny to me. We got to meet a couple more of his neighbors when they do sort of the cop storyline, and I looked up everyone's names last time, and I totally forgot. I meant to do it beforehand, but I just got into it, so... Oh, well, I still can't remember her name. But she had a pretty interesting moment in this episode because she goes to, the campsite, and, the neighbors are like, oh, he's, we don't really know his name, but he was kind of a dick to me and my wife. That was really funny. I enjoyed that. And so she's trying to figure out, like, maybe there's something tying into what happened with me and my partner. Maybe something's tying in here. And so, of course, she sees the hand and it's like pointing straight to the card, which I love that. I was like, that's just, it's just Evil Dead campiness, but at the same time it's like, it just happened to be that way, but it's also a little bit campy. So I was like, that's kind of cool. And it's just, she turns and she sees this random hand. I thought she was going to say something because there was a dead body on the ground. And when they first show her, it's like no one's there at all. So I thought she was like the first one on the scene. I was wondering how that happened. I was like, because she, with her kind of being pushed out a little bit after everything that happened, she's not technically allowed to be on any sort of case or even at any crime scenes. So when she first showed up, I was like, how did she figure this stuff out? Because they didn't show anyone. And then in the next scene, it was like, oh, okay, there are all these cops here. But I'm pretty sure in that first scene, she was still by herself. So maybe it was the same. I guess technically it was the same thing because it's not like they would have called her anyway. So she probably just has like her own little cop radio and she was listening in, and she just took off before anybody got there. So that's probably how that came to be. And so now she actually ends up at the bookstore before the rest of the team does because they of course have their crazy adventure with Kelly's parents. So I liked her scene. It was like she's getting closer and closer. Based on the preview, she meets the rest of the characters in the next episode. There was some scene where she was like handcuffed and she's like, everywhere your friend goes, people die. That technically could have been about anyone, but I would assume it's about Ash. So looking forward to them all kind of coming together at the end. Lucy Lawless in the promo seemed to have a really big part in the next episode because she was actually completely absent from this one. So looking forward to seeing her in the next episode. Of course, we knew that she knew something based on that very cryptic opening scene she had in the premiere. So we knew she knew something. She ends up at Kelly's house somehow. So I don't know if maybe if she has some connections with the police too, and it's like, oh, this happened, or they hear that this happened. But I'm pretty sure she just randomly found that out because no one was there. They just have like a house basically on farmland, so no one was there to hear or call about anything. So somehow she tracked them to Kelly's house, and then she's gonna be tracking them to I'm assuming to the bookstore for the next episode. But looking forward to that. The action at the house was definitely awesome. I loved everything that took place there. There was some stuff that really surprised me. The biggest thing is how the father died, because I thought for sure when the mother grabbed the knife, I was like, okay, she's gonna grab this knife and she's just gonna like stab him in the neck, and then she like puts her hand down to the bottom of the or fork, because I said knife, but she puts her hand down to the bottom of the fork and she just slams his head. I was like, oh man, that it completely surprised me because I was so sure that she was just gonna stab him in the neck and then maybe bite him and try to turn him, and I figured that's how they both ended up dying, is that the mother would be evil and then she turned the father, and I figured he wasn't evil just yet. I figured that once Ash revealed to everyone that the mother was evil, I was like, okay, so she's gonna turn the dad, but she flat out killed him. She just slammed his head on the fork. And that was it. I was like, holy crap, I did not see that coming. I was like 100% sure, like, oh, she's going to stab him in the neck. And it was like, and he came, right towards the camera and everything. I was like, that was a crazy shot. So he gets killed off. Everything before that was really nice too, with Ash, like, knowing that she's evil and everyone else is like, oh, she's totally fine. She actually had amnesia and all this other stuff. And of course we know that she's evil, not just from the trailer, but even if we hadn't seen the trailer, it would kind of be obvious, like, oh, my mother's dead. I wouldn't have believed the excuse either, because it's like, it's a little hard to with it being Evil Dead. It's like, even if I didn't know because of the trailer, I still would have been like, no, she's probably evil. So I actually like that opening, or like the dinner scene. The fact that they let him have his chainsaw and his gun, I also love. But he's sitting there and like he's seeing what he wants to see, and or maybe it really is visions. I don't think he can like see everyone just because he's dealt with the Deadites before. I'm pretty sure that was just him kind of visualizing it because he's so freaking sure. It's like that's kind of what he was just seeing in his head, and it's not like he can see evil or anything like that. So I love that whole thing because it was really funny, and he's asking all these questions and stuff. Is like, oh, what do you do? He's like, teacher, what grade? And all this stuff. He's like rapid questions. I like that. And then when he punched her and she actually turned, he was like, oh, good. I was starting to feel like a bit of a dick, and I was like, that's just silly and funny. And then it was a crazy action scene after that, especially when they actually got to Kelly's room. That was insane. That was like, started off pretty simple. It was like, alright, she turned, she tosses Kelly against the wall. Ash tries to take her down. He swings, boom, chainsaw stuck in the wall. Pablo was there for a minute. He got up, by the end, he did ultimately help Ash out. I was just sitting there, I'm like, oh, he's freaking out too much. I'm like, just help him out. Fortunately, he does. Unfortunately, and I feel like they might do this every episode, because he seems to always have a scene where it's like, all right, I did it, and then they turn around like he didn't do anything. He's like, oh fuck, and he did that in the car when he hit his boss, And then it was like nothing happened. He's like, oh crap, like this didn't work. So he had it twice in this episode. And I feel like that's something they could easily do every time where he's like just trying to make it work. And then eventually he'll get his actual, finishing move. But that was really cool. And then the actual final kill that Ash had was insane because he revs up the chainsaw, takes her down. I thought for sure he was just gonna chop her in half. He like stabs her in the middle, kind of cuts a little bit, and then takes it out, and then just completely decapitates her, and like just tosses the head. I was like, holy crap, that was a ton of blood, and it's just blood all over Pablo and Kelly. It's just like splattering. Like every time it goes to them, there's more blood splattering on them, or there's more blood has already splattered on them, and it was just cool. It was like insane to see how insanely bloody they went with this episode, and I loved it. I thought it was like really cool, and just insanely over the top as it should be because it's Evil Dead. That's what they do. Um, it still doesn't even get to the craziness of like the reboot movie. If you saw that, like the ending scene from that with the chainsaw was just like there was so much blood in that you wouldn't believe, but it was a lot of blood in this one too, and I enjoyed it. I definitely like the first scene after she did kill the dad though. The way they had the camera where it was like a little rig hooked up to the front of the shotgun, I was like, that actually looks really cool because it was right next to the shotgun, and I think when he first shoots, you actually see it shoot from that angle where it's like right off of the shotgun. And I was like, that's actually a really awesome angle because normally they'll do it where it's like at the very front of the gun, but they had it like just off to the side, and he actually pulled the trigger, and they had it from that angle. And I was like, that's actually really sweet. And him just trying to go around with it was pretty fun. So I was like, that's actually kind of cool how they shot that little scene with the nice tiny little rig on the side of the shotgun was pretty sweet. So definitely a great second episode. Like I said, really the only downside to this was that I found out we were only getting 30-minute episodes, and I was so looking forward to like getting a full hour of this. But still a great 30 minutes. Tons and tons of blood in this episode. I think it was like twice, maybe 3 times as much blood in this episode compared to the last one. But I'm really looking forward to this next episode. I can't wait to see exactly what Lucy Lawless's character is going to be like, because with her knowing stuff about Ash, like she knows Ash's name. It's just like, was Ash here and did he have the book with him? It's kind of automatic. It's like, okay, she knows quite a bit. She could find out Ash's name. She might not know his name right now, so that's kind of up in the air. But she definitely knows about deadites for sure. And kind of how they're playing it, it seems like she might actually be the antagonist to, the team. And it's like, okay, so we have, kind of our trio with Ash, Kelly, and Pablo. And then we have, our cop character. She's obviously the one who's being introduced into the world, but she's still seemingly a good character. I doubt she'll just turn once she finds Ash. She's gonna kind of look for answers. And then we have Lucy Lawless, where it's like, okay, she's kind of an enigma at this point. She had the super cryptic, first scene in the last episode, and now she's gonna be like a big part of the third episode. So I don't know. Like, I'm looking forward to how they play it. I don't think she'll be a full villain. I think she might end up being sort of like an anti-hero type character where maybe her idea is to get the book from Ash to stop it herself. And then that's why they're going to fight, because Ash is going to be like, oh, I'm the only one that can stop it. And then she might think like, oh, I can do it better than you can. And that might be how they end up butting heads. But either way, super fun episode. Loved it for sure. All the comedy, all the gore. Just amazing. Like, even I think this episode was actually both funnier and gorier than the last episode, because there's a lot more comedy. The stuff with the mom, I just really love. Like, even when they first burst through, like, they burst through the door, he's got a chainsaw on his arm and a double barrel shotgun. Pablo comes in like he's trying to do some martial arts or something with this broken beer bottle, and then it's like, oh, everything's totally fine here. Like, sorry about that. Like, just burst through the door and stuff. All of that was just really good, and it was fun. And now we officially have the trio by the end, because they do help out Kelly, and she's like, well, I hate this evil. I hate whatever did this to my parents. So, now we have our trio, which is fun. I also like that scene with Pablo, because Ash was like, Like I basically had the same feeling when it happened to me, and then he's like, "Me too. I too hate this evil." And he just takes a drink. I thought that was a nice, funny scene because he's still like trying to impress Kelly, and it seemed like it was kind of working a little bit. Maybe not impress, when he was like just talking to her for dinner, but obviously he has feelings. He's trying to do everything he can to sort of connect to her and be like, "Oh, me too," and this and that. But definitely a fun episode. I'm really excited for the next one. The fact that Ash said we should summon something really big that can help us stop um, the Deadites in general, stop everything from happening. That has me excited because that's not going to work out right, and that might lead to some of the other demons that we get. Because all the Deadites have always just been people. They've either been people or from Army of Darkness they were kind of the skeletons brought back to life, and Ash was kind of being affected by the stuff in Evil Dead 2 with like the house laughing at him and all that stuff. And we also did have the puppet, from the last episode. So there are other living things that can happen, or inanimate, things can be brought, to life by the darkness. But I'm very curious if they summon something and it unleashes like a couple of different monsters or something like that. Because the one that has like no face that's in the trailer and it is like completely gray, but it has like just crazy teeth and stuff. I feel like that's something that gets summoned. I don't think anything changes into that and it just gets summoned by accident or something crazy happens. But I'm looking forward to whatever they end up doing because I'm actually excited to see some of these, sort of new creations where they're like full on demons and maybe they aren't even deadites. It's just like they have to deal with deadites and then they have crazy new monsters that they have to deal with too. And I think that's kind of where we're headed for episode 3. So I'm looking forward to that for sure. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode though. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And this question is actually mostly based off of the promo for the next episode. But what do you guys think is going to be the deal with Lucy Lawless's character? And I will most likely, when I put the actual question down in like the little comment section, I'll have her real name, her actual character name, and not the actress's name. But I want to know what you guys think is going down with her character, because like I said, she seems like an enigma. Could end up being a villain, could just be an antagonist, sort of anti-hero type of deal, and same goals but conflicting ways, conflicting solutions, and that's probably how they end up, being enemies. But I want to know what you guys think, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.